Hi, I'm Nicola McKenzie, founder and mortgage advisor here at DM Mortgages. And in today's video, I will be explaining to you how best to do your research to find the perfect location for your next property purchase. So to find out more, stay tuned. Now, before we get into the detail of today's video, make sure that if you enjoy the content on this channel, you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you never miss any future video uploads. Also, to show your support for this channel, when the time comes to consider your mortgage or remortgage options, make sure that you head over to our website, which is dm.mortgage, and you book in for a free of charge mortgage appointment with our fully qualified mortgage advice team. Now, also remember that this video is part of a whole series of videos that's dedicated to helping you to prepare to buy a property. So do make sure that you check out the rest of the videos in the series. Now, when you are researching a location for a property, I'm assuming that you're looking for residential property. This video is still useful to investors as well, but assuming that you're looking for a residential property, location is so important, because if you're going to spend potentially a lot of money investing in a property, you need to be confident that you are going to be happy to live in that property day in and day out. Now, the other reason why location of a property is incredibly important is because, of course, a location can affect the price of the property. And in order for you to know if the property that you're potentially purchasing is realistic or the location is realistic, then you need to get a basic understanding at this early stage as to how much property you can get for your money. And also, this is going to be an indicator, once you know the location of the properties you're considering, of how much you might need to borrow in terms of on a mortgage. Now, when you're buying a property, stock availability, of course, is going to vary from place to place, but the more flexible you are with your location, then that is likely going to mean more choice. Now, you need to bear in mind as well that making sure that you get the location right and you're happy in that property is important, because the cost of acquisition of a property is high. So if you have to move on sooner than you expect for any reason, then it could end up being an expensive mistake. So this video is really to highlight some of the main things to consider before deciding on where to buy a property. Now, the first thing to consider once you have a location in mind is what are nearby shops and facilities like in that area, and do they match your lifestyle? So if you like to go to the gym, the nearest gym's half an hour away. Is that going to be a problem to you? How much outdoor space, parks and greenery is available if that's something that's important to you? You know, what shopping facilities are there? Again, if your local Tesco is a 20-minute drive away, or whatever supermarket you like to shop in, then again, how is that going to feel when you're doing that drive every week? You know, the novelty may start to wear thin sooner than you imagine. Again, if you like to know that there are clothes shops or outlets, retail parks on your doorstep, but the nearest retail park's half an hour from the location, is that going to start to bother you quite quickly? Then again, these are things that you need to be researching and thinking about. Now, you also should have a look at your location and look at what plans there are for new developments in the future, because these can help to increase the property's value. Certainly if they're things like new shopping facilities, new eateries, new schools, that kind of thing. But on the flip side of that, new developments can also negatively affect the property's value in the future. So if you know that there's a large industrial project even, for example, or transport projects, things like new railways, new roads, they are often not desirable new developments that people want to be living close to. Obviously, that's subjective depending on what the new project is and the specifics of it, but these are just things to be mindful of. Now, when you're researching a location, also have a think about the transport connections, especially if you have to be in a place of work. You know, you don't have the luxury of working from home. You need to think about how long is the commute to your workplace. Again, is that going to start to bother you, you know, a year into living in that new property? These are the kinds of things that when you're living in them day to day can start to really impact on how much you enjoy the location of where you're living. How long is it going to take for your children to get to the nearest school? I'd also advise to look at peak times in terms of traffic. So visit the property or the location at various different times during the day to look at how busy the location gets. Again, if you're travelling overseas, perhaps looking at how close the nearest airport is and the links to that airport. These are all things that you need to have a think about because they are going to impact on your day-to-day happiness in that location. Now, another thing to research is school catchment areas, and this is something that often people that don't have children or are not planning on having children tend to forget about and overlook. But to me, this point is important whether you have children or not and whether or not you're planning children, because being close to a good school can again be a positive impact on the property's value. But again, depending on how close you are to that school, it can also have a negative impact on the property's value. But being within the catchment area of good schools is something that families, it's going to make the property more desirable. It's going to make the property easier to sell when the time comes. So check out the nearby schools and look at their Ofsted ratings as well. I'll put links in the description below to the website where you can check local schools and their Ofsted ratings. But that is going to tell you what schools are ranked as outstanding, and those schools are often in demand. People like to move within catchment areas to schools that are in demand. As a viewer of this channel, I assume that you're considering purchasing a property in the near future. So it's important for you to know that DM Mortgages are an award-winning team of fully qualified mortgage brokers that provide advice to clients all over the UK. Now, we spend countless hours making free content for YouTube and other social media platforms to help to give you guys sound and useful information to make sure that you're in the best position to make informed decisions. To support this channel, when the time comes for you to consider your mortgage options, we want you to book a free online mortgage appointment with a member of our fully qualified mortgage advice team. Because without your help and support, keeping this channel going simply isn't possible. Now, we searched thousands of mortgage products from high street and specialist lenders to find the right deal for your circumstances. And we also provide a free will writing service to every DM client. So head over to dm.mortgage and book in for a free mortgage appointment when the time comes. And also make sure that you subscribe to this channel if you find the content useful. But for now, let's get back to the video. Now, the next thing to have a think about when researching your location is make sure that you do your homework in terms of the local environment. So have a think about, are there any seasonal events that happen in that area that might bother you? Again, if you're a very quiet person by nature, you're not a sort of raving type, then would moving to Edinburgh close to the heart of Fringe Festival or the heart of the Notting Hill Carnival area, even though these events only come round once a year typically, but again, they cause a lot of noise around that time of year, and is that going to be an inconvenience to you if you're not the sort of person that likes to participate in a party style environment? So think about what local festivals happen in that local area and whether or not that's an area that you would be happy again living in long term. Now, you also need to have a think about local businesses because that can also cause problems. So again, if you're nearby to things like bars, clubs, restaurants, where again you're going to get noise pollution till quite late in the early hours, is that going to be a problem to you? And another thing to have a think about when you're looking at the local environment are local sewers or other environmental landmarks that could make the local area unpleasant. So things like tips, recycling plants, quarries, these things can again have an unpleasant impact on the nearby local area. So you need to have a think about and research these things. Now, another thing to research when you're looking at a property's location is the risk of flooding. Because if you are buying a property that's in a high risk flood zone, then that could mean that you are paying a lot more for your home insurance premiums. Some insurers may choose to not even insure you at all if the risk gets too high. But of course, as well, the property's value and desirability could be affected. And not to mention, being in a property where there is a high risk of being flooded is just inconvenient and just generally not very nice. So make sure that you do your homework around flood risks. Now, you also want to make sure that you are researching the crime rate in that location. Now, you can check again via a website, I'll put links in the description below, the top reported crimes in the area that you are looking to purchase within. And also, if crime is on the rise in a particular area, that could be useful to know if you're considering moving to that area. Now, this is important because, again, high crime areas will be more expensive, not just from a home insurance perspective, but also your car insurance. And of course, it could be unnecessary inconvenience for you, but not to mention potentially dangerous. Now, you also, when you're thinking about this point, need to have a think about your own personal lifestyle, because, you know, if you're moving to an area where assaults are on the rise and you're the sort of person that likes to go out late Friday, Saturday nights and come home early doors, then again, is that the wisest choice in terms of location? Maybe not. So again, this is about your safety and making sure again that you're going to be happy for the long term, if it's a long-term investment you're planning, in the location that you're buying this property within. Now, here are some other tools and tips. One of my personal favourites in terms of researching locations is the Zoopla website. There is a tool called Areas to Live, and this will help you to look at the features of a location. So for example, if you don't know the local areas so well, this feature or this tool is incredibly useful, because you can put in the location that you're considering or your workplace, for example, and search within a 30-minute radius of that particular area. So that's a useful tool. And again, all of these tools that I'm mentioning, I will put links in the description below. Another tip that I would suggest is find several areas. Try not to pinpoint it to one specific street, because the more specific you are, the more difficult it's going to be to find the right property. So try and be open-minded, because there could be limited stock in the particular location that you're considering. Consider compromising. So again, when you're looking for a property, it's not uncommon, you know, you're not often going to be able to tick every single box on your list of things that you want. So write down a list, look at what's non-negotiable, look at what's nice to have but not necessarily essential, and then work from there. Now, a few more useful tools, things like the Ofsted website, as I've mentioned earlier on, Google Street View to check out the local streets, and also the crime checker facility that I will also put links in the description below too. Now, you can also check the risk of flooding using the UK's government flood maps as well. So I'll put links to that in the description below too. And I would also suggest, guys, to speak to members of the community, particularly if you are unfamiliar with the area. Perhaps even stay in that area for a few days, stay in a local hotel, really get to know that area as much as possible. Because like I say, the cost of acquisition of a property is just far too high to be taking risks with this sort of thing. And also, like I said earlier in the video, visit the property at different times of day, during rush hour, at night, check what parking facilities are available. Is it the kind of street that, you know, gets really rammed at night and you're going to find it hard to find somewhere to park? That could again become a problem. But the point I'm making is never buy a property without visiting and getting familiar with the local area. Now, if that video has been useful, make sure that you check out the rest of the videos in the series, because I've got a whole series of videos dedicated to helping you guys to prepare to buy a property. And make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss any more property and mortgage related content. Also, to show your support for this channel, when the time comes for you to consider your mortgage or remortgage options, which is ideally before you start booking any viewings on properties, make sure that you get mortgage advice from our fully qualified mortgage advice team. And to do that, you can head to our website, which is dm.mortgage, and you can book in there for a free mortgage consultation. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.